In 1966, Orville Freeman, Secretary of Agriculture, asked Lester to head up the newly established International Agricultural Development Service. To beef up the staff, Lester recruited several talented young prospects. Among them were Mac Destler, who was hired to work in the Asia branch, and Bill Jones, who worked in the Africa branch. Mac and Bill.
Think 1960s. Specifically, sometime in the middle of 1967, a young man around 27 years of age placed a telephone call to Lester Brown in his new position as administrator at the International Agricultural Development Service, and he said more or less directly or indirectly that he was looking for a job. My qualification at the time was that I'd written a few speeches for a senator about agricultural issues and the problems of world food. Les invited me to lunch. Before the end of the day, he called me up and offered me a job. He didn't have the job to offer. It took 3.5 months after I came on board for him to get the Civil Service Commission to somehow admit that I was qualified. Nevertheless, we had a great time. We were hired, Bill and I probably, to be officially to be coordinators of paperwork for USDA technical specialists to work on AID projects. In fact, Les expected us to be, and we were delighted to be, his supportive think tank. And it turned out that when Les retired at age 34, as director of the International Agricultural Development Service, we had a party, and it seemed appropriate for us to produce a celebratory song. Now, with the exception of the final verse, and with a couple of editorial changes, because I noticed that we had gotten his age wrong in the original version, this is the song that we made. So there will be a few period references that you may not recognize, and a few references to people. When we say he moved his desk across the street, you might infer that that was to become closer to the Secretary of Agriculture. That was correct, actually. And there were others, but we will just allow you to figure this out. Anyway, let me get the musical accompaniment here. Okay. In Jersey South, he led a band that grew tomatoes infinite in Bridgeton sand. He ruled his roost with a sturdy frown and became an agriculturist of great renown. Les Brown's tomato farm brought yields so great that soon he was invited to a foreign state.
Les Brown's tomato farm brought yields so great that soon he was invited to a foreign state.
In India, a land so strange, where he went with International Farm Youth Exchange, he discovered a new world so poor and austere that shortly he was launched upon a new career. This world, he said, must grow more food in order to sustain its fast expanding brood.
This world, he said, must grow more food in order to sustain its fast expanding brood.
When Les Brown came to Washington, the food problem was not a pressing one. With surplus stocks, it seemed well in hand, but to Les, the LDCs were running out of land. Expansion of acreage must cease. Instead, we must concentrate on yield increase.
Expansion of acreage must soon cease. Instead, we must concentrate on yield increase.
He armed himself for hunger's war with studies economic and a Harvard tour. Love's labor to his desk him glued till he brought forth man, land, and food. So well that book did grain trends treat that he was asked to move his desk across the street.
So well this book did grain trends treat that soon he was asked to move his desk across the street.
From there to India and Rome, and crop disasters cabled home. With tight leash he made food a dear, but his greatest coup of all was bringing Molly here. With freedmen he did treaties write, and ascended to become a J.C. leading light. Anointed one of 10 young men, no sword could hang a candle to his mighty pen. To Dr. Brown did honors pour, as he was named IADS Administrator. From farmer band to agency rule, a well-renowned leader of starvation school. But travels wide brought happenings new, so he began to formulate a change of view.
But travels wide brought happenings new, so Les began to formulate a change of view.
In Asian lands he fashioned his new creed, more grain from fertilizer and new seed. This world he put to an engine of steam in an agricultural revolution. In an agricultural revolution. In a revolution, agricultural, not green. The critics called him Flip-Flop Brown, but he wore with dignity this thorny crown. Offending change where facts demand, on this principle pragmatical he took his stand. So farmers all, wherever you may be, if you want to rise to the top of the tree, you must join hard work with action bold, so you can fit your life right into Les Brown's mold. He rose with a speed that some deplore, and he's an elder statesman now at 34.
He rose with speed that some deplore, so he's an elder statesman now at 34.
Well, that was then, this is now, 80 years, don't quite know how. Seeds of change and books galore, watching world and so much more. Just 80 more, and then you see, we'll join with Les to celebrate his century.
Just
80 more, and then you'll see, we'll join with Les to celebrate his century.